All right, we're live. Is everybody in the Christmas spirit?
Oh yeah, I like that. I put up my tree this morning.
Does everybody have a tree up yet?
Yes.
Yep.
I've had it for like a month almost, so I'm not even ashamed.
Yeah, we did too. My wife, the day after Halloween, she starts putting Christmas decorations up.
Yes.
Which is kind of cool, but I was pretty lame this year. I haven't put any Christmas lights up outside, so I don't know. I think it's kind of too late for me to just do that for a couple weeks. You know,
Never too
late. It's only the first.
I know, but I want to take time and make sure it looks right. So Oklahoma is the only state that I've ever lived where it is commonplace to hire someone to put lights up. Where I'm from, that this service just doesn't exist. But it seems like everyone in my neighborhood has the same type of lights up, and it looks great. But there's just like there's no like individuality there, you know, because they're all kind of around the peaks of the houses and stuff like that.
I feel like it's a relatively new thing though too, because like I remember growing up and being forced to crawl up on the roof and help put up Christmas lights with my dad, and I don't think that was ever an option to pay for. Maybe he just didn't want to pay for it, free labor. But
yeah,
I think it's a relatively new thing. But you're right. I mean, even I think Kristen's son is doing that as his business now. So
what I don't understand is, so if I hire this company and I'm like, hey, I want lights up on my house, and they go out there, they cut the lights, they splice them together and all that stuff. Is the first year cost the most expensive as they're doing it? And then, so if I redo it next year, do they save those lights?
Yeah,
they do?
It's expensive the first year. We just did it last year for the first time ever, and we had to like invest in the lights. But then he comes and takes them and he stores them for us. We could store them here if we wanted to, but he will store them and then he comes and brings them back.
I didn't know that. So maybe that doesn't sound as bad. I thought that you were just renting them. So you actually take ownership of the lights. So you could tell this guy next year, forget it. You've already done all the hard work. I'm going to hang the lights up myself.
Yeah, I mean, he could just leave them on the house too if we wanted to, but forever. But
you should do that. You should totally do that.
Totally be those people.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I didn't know that was an option.
Yeah. Well, anyway, so we wanted to do this episode of the podcast to try to as an opportunity to introduce you, Emily, to our membership base. So before we sort of give you the floor to give us just you in a nutshell, I did a little bit of recon on you, but what I could find on Google. So your husband Scott, he works at Mercy. Is he a doctor now? He was a PA.
He is a PA still. He's a PA.
There's a Dr. Scott Interwitz.
Well, so he works at he may be mislabeled online. At a rural hospital. So he technically you went to Mercy, Oklahoma City or something like that, there would be a doctor on call and there is a PA as well. But he's in the emergency room at the Mercy in Guthrie, and they don't have a doctor on as well. So he's the highest level on whenever he's on shift. So maybe that's why. I don't know. I'll have to ask him about that. I didn't know he was listed as doctor.
Well, I'm going to call him doctor either way if I ever meet him. So it looks like you graduated from OSU in 2013. You got an associate's degree from there, but you also got a bachelor's in design, housing, and merchandising. I'm curious what all that means. You are an NASM certified trainer, a nutrition consultant through the National Academy of Metabolic Science. You worked at Lululemon for a while, worked at a bank, and then you started this.
Wow.
The Emily Lauren Creative, which hopefully we'll get a chance to dive into and see what that's all about. Is any of that wrong?
No, that's really terrifying. Google can find out about you.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, there was some. It actually was weird. One of the links I clicked on, it showed me your house, and I was like,
wow.
Okay, I don't need to know that. But
I'm gonna have to Google myself and figure out what's all on the internet.
Yeah. So everybody we've had on here, we sort of open up. Just tell us a little bit about yourself, sort of your fitness journey, all that, and kind of what's led you to here.
Yeah, so all that is absolutely correct. I did go to OSU. I got a bachelor's degree in fashion merchandising, which was really fun at the time, but I realized that I'm not going to do anything with that. I didn't want to move to New York and be a buyer or anything like that. So it was basically a piece of paper that we are still paying off to this day. But it counts as a degree, I guess. But I kind of went through a period where I didn't really know what I wanted to do after that. I worked a couple of different jobs. I worked at Lululemon. I was there for about 4 years. And I feel like that is kind of what started to kind of kick off all of my fitness journey. You know, we're exposed to a lot of different types of fitness there. We're encouraged to go take classes at different studios. I kind of went a different path with that shortly after starting to like work out and really like take accountability for all of that. And I went into the bodybuilding field of things. So I am still involved in that. I've done 6 shows. And 2022 was the last season that I competed. And I'm taking some time off, and then I hope to get back on stage one day. But I started coaching in 2022. It was kind of just a situation where I was into fitness for myself, loved going to the gym, loved talking about it with people, and people were always like, why are you not a personal trainer? Why are you not doing this? And for me, it was kind of like, I didn't know that I wanted to mix those two things. I didn't know if I wanted to mix my love, like my own personal love for being in the gym, and have that become a job. Because you see a lot of people who do that and who get completely burnt out on that life. I myself have always worked with online coaching. So whenever I started off as a lifestyle client, and then I moved into bodybuilding, and all that I always worked in the online realm. So that was more normal to me than in-person training. I still, to this day, have only worked with one in-person trainer my whole entire life. So I started going into the realm of online coaching. I was like, this is kind of a situation where I can work at the job. I was working for a bank at that time doing marketing. And I was like, let's just kind of see how this goes. So I started taking on a few clients, and then it kind of got to the point where I was able to step away from my other full-time job at that time. I was also, the Emily Lauren creative piece of that is I own a social media management business as well. So I was doing kind of both of those part-time from home. And so I got I was like, I didn't want to step into that until I felt like I was qualified to do it, because I do think that a lot of people, not that I think you necessarily need a degree to know what you're talking about or a certification, but I do think that it helps and it gives you a little bit of credibility. So I got my NASM certification for my personal training, and then I got my nutrition certification. And when I did the nutrition course, that's kind of where I fell more in love with the nutrition piece of things, and how you can really change a lot of things with your body, with your health, and all that through nutrition. And that's such a big piece of it that I think that a lot of people undervalue. I think that a lot of people have no problem committing to the gym or making it to the gym, but it's those other, 23 hours in a day that they don't really know what to do with. And then I think a big piece of it for me working with my clients is education. You can come to somebody or, hire a coach and get a meal plan and not really know the reasons for why you're doing what you're doing. And that doesn't really get you any further than where you started, because that's not going to last forever. So it's about education, sustainability, doing this stuff for the long term, not just getting like these short, unsustainable results.
Yeah, I heard you talk on the Refined Strength podcast. You were talking about how kind of COVID was sort of the catalyst for this change in your career trajectory. You know what I mean? A lot of people use COVID as an excuse to just sort of let their foot off the gas. It sounds like you did just the opposite.
Yeah.
How has the social media management stuff compared to like fitness in regard to like the work that you have to put into both? Is it the same, or?
It's completely different. A different style of work. I enjoy doing the social media things. It's not anything that I dislike, but I feel like coaching is where I have found like my actual passion. Like it's really cool and really fulfilling to get to help other people and to see like those light bulb moments go off in other people, and then really change their life through something, through education and through, changing their own lives. So I wouldn't say like the workload is necessarily different, but it's just a completely different type of work. I don't know if that answers your question or
No,
not.
it does. So have you always done like one-on-one coaching, or have you ever done group coaching? It's funny, as we had talked about this recently. I think Troy and I were talking just off to the side. For me, the one-on-one dynamic, me as a coach and as a client, is I don't enjoy that nearly as much as a group of people, but I can see how there's some people that really thrive in the one-on-one environment. So just curious if you've ever done the group stuff, or it's always been a one-on-one, and has that always been remote?
Yeah. It's always been remote. I have one, I go train my dad in person. He's my only like in person, like I do like his fitness training with that. But all of my coaching has been one-on-one up until this point. I'm definitely open to doing more group settings. It's harder with remote work to do group setting because it's rare that you're going to find, a group of, 4 or 5 people that are all going to come together and meet maybe in like a situation like this and do something like that. So up until now, it's all been one-on-one.
Cool.
I'm curious, from the people that you've worked with in terms of like nutrition, what are the most common, I don't want to say mistakes, but what are the most common things right off the bat, low-hanging fruit that you see most people do that they don't realize is hurting them?
Yeah. It's funny because I feel like I have like 50-50, like it's like split 50-50 on the type of clients I get. I either get the person who is eating like standard American diet, way over consuming, not paying attention to anything that they eat, or I really honestly get maybe even a little bit over 50% of people who are drastically under eating. And especially in the athlete population, people drastically underestimate how much they should be eating to really fuel their body. And everybody is I feel like we're so focused on this diet culture that we have all had this idea driven into our minds since, we've been young. It's all about being as skinny as possible and eating as little as possible. And, more is not always more. You have to find that balance between, not totally overdoing it, but then not just totally undercutting yourself, because that is going to halt your progress just as much as completely overeating. So things like that, deciding on how many calories to eat in a day, what is even like healthy foods and what is not. There's a huge misconception on things like that. People think that I always say this, one of my biggest annoyances is, and I shouldn't say annoyances because people don't know what they don't know, but like everybody seems to think that peanut butter is a protein. And that is just like, I get my protein in and eat my peanut butter. And it's like, you have to understand what's actually in the food that you're eating. And there's so much information out there. It's information overload. And there's so many differences of opinions and what people think work for, somebody. There's 1,000 different diets out there that you can do. And so it's all about finding what works for you, not doing what you think you need to be doing because it's something that you heard on TV or something that your friend is doing or, something like that.
I think that one of the things that I found, just like personal experiences with my family and stuff, is the common misconception about foods that are healthy because the labeling says they're healthy. And it's just such like manipulation.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'll use my parents because I know dad will blame it on mom, and mom's like, no, whatever, Jimmy. But they'll buy things that say real fruit juice, like popsicles, real fruit juice. And I'm like, get that crap out of here. If you look on the label, there's so much sugar. Like, what is that? Do you see that with your clients where people, because, it's such a marketing ploy now with all the different labels and all this stuff out there. Do you see that happening quite a bit?
Yeah.
People think they're buying healthy and doing healthy things, but really it's like that stuff is terrible too, if not worse.
Yeah, I see it a lot, especially with things that are like gluten-free.
Yep.
Or sugar-free, or, and everything has a time and a place. If you are truly gluten intolerant, then yes, you need to be eating those foods. But sometimes those foods, like you can have gluten-free Oreos, and you can't think that those are really any better than a regular Oreo just because it slaps that label on there. So there's a lot of marketing schemes that are out there. And it's sad because I feel like, you know, again, you don't know what you don't know. And people put a lot of trust in these companies to be truthful and put out all this information. And companies like that are trying to make a dollar. You know, they're going to do whatever they can to get you to consume those foods. And so it's sad to see, you know, people, I do have a lot of people who come to me, and one of the first things I do whenever I have somebody, when I start working with somebody, is I have them do like a nutrition recall. So for 5 days, they record everything that they eat and drink, you know, and I'm always tell people, I'm like, don't change what you are eating and drinking because now you have to write it down. Like, I need to get a good picture at what you are, you know, currently doing. And a lot of people are just astonished whenever they, you know, realize that what they're doing is not really, you know, healthy. It's healthy what they think is healthy, but it's all, a lot of it's driven by labels and hot topics and those hot words that are out there.
Yeah, people seem to think they're really good with their money until they sit down and budget it. They think they're good with their time until they sit down and actually like reconcile their time. And it's the same thing with the diet too. Savannah, what's your question regarding like the healthy, like stuff that's labeled healthy or health food? I don't know why, but it sort of brought me back to Greg Glassman and his definition of fitness prior to him using CrossFit's methodology, actually putting a label and a definition to fitness. Do you think that's part of the problem with the word healthy? Is there like an actual like widely accepted definition of like what that means? And do you think there should be like criteria met for something to be in a health food aisle or something like that, you know? Or is it just, was it just a subjective term that, you know, anybody can put it on anything and they're not really wrong because there's no black and white definition to it?
Yeah, I think you're spot on with that. I think it's a very subjective term, and I should look it up to see what it says actually in the dictionary, but for the, like what health means, but it's going to be different to everybody. And something too that I try to like strive with my clients is to stop labeling foods as healthy or unhealthy. Food is food, you know, when you look at it at the end of the day, like typical foods that you think are unhealthy, like donuts, cookies, you know, there's reasons why those are unhealthy. It's not that they're unhealthy, they're very like caloric dense. So it's like, you can still enjoy those things. You shouldn't, you know, it has to be a give and a take. You can't just cut all of those fun foods out of your diet altogether, because whenever you do that, you're more likely to crave those foods, and then you're eventually going to like binge on those foods or overconsume on those foods at a later date because you've restricted them for so long. So it's like, you have to find that moderation. Like, no, I always tell people no foods are technically off limits. You can eat whatever you want. But that's funny that you said that about the budget too, because that's how you have to look at it. You have to look at the food that you consume as a budget, and you have this much food to eat, and you can choose to eat that however you want, but you have to know what's going to come along with the foods that you do choose to eat and how they're going to respond to your individual body.
Yeah, I was talking to a member about that the other day. How when I was younger, when I first got on my own, I was really, really systematic with how I balanced a checkbook. It was to the point where it was almost a compulsion. Every time I did something, I was immediately in my checkbook. And then I realized that, first of all, my bank had never done me wrong. Every time that whatever my account said online was always right. But also, I started to get really good at knowing whether I had been spending too much or if I had the opportunity to spend more money. So like now I just don't reconcile a checkbook anymore. And I think like eating is kind of the same way. Most people, I think generally, this is a bad generalization, they know what is good food and what is bad food. They just maybe haven't gotten used to what eating the right amount of foods might feel like to their body. So they're just constantly overeating. And I think like the more you do it, like the less of looking at it through a microscope you have to do. You can sort of just know that I'm doing okay on my diet or I'm not doing okay. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, I think that that's absolutely right. I think a lot of people don't know what it feels like to feel good, to truly feel good, and to, you know, to wake up in the morning and have a clear mind and not spend your whole day focused on food, but be, you know, fueling your body properly. And I just don't think a lot of people know what that feels like. And so it's like when you start to kind of take control of your nutrition and make those changes, and you kind of see what that feels like, and you want to keep that. That gives you more drive to continue on the path of what you're doing.
Mm-hmm. How has your outlook on nutrition shifted over the recent years? I think like 10 years ago when I first got my CrossFit Level 1, it was kind of like my first real exposure to somebody explaining to me a diet program. And at the time, CrossFit was pushing the zone diet. And to me, as they're briefing it, as they're talking about it, it made a whole lot of sense to me. So I kind of like bought into that for a short period of time. It just me by the way that I'm wired, tracking macros and points and stuff is just not a good space for me to be. It's not a good space for me to be in. But my preference on diet has shifted several times over the past decade or so. I'm just curious for you, like where did you kind of start, and has that shifted into a focus for yourself and a focus for your clients?
Yeah, so I come from a history of when I first started off coaching, was very macro based, like wanted to teach that to everybody, because I truly do believe that is one of the most sustainable ways for people. If you have like big goals of wanting to put on a lot of muscle or wanting to shed a lot of fat, tracking your macros and truly staying accountable to those numbers and making sure that you're hitting these targets throughout the day, I think is the quickest and the most sustainable way to reach those goals. But that is not the only way to do it. And so I have shifted the way that I coach. It's changed several times throughout the year. I always say I'm not the same coach that I was in 2020. And I would hope that I wouldn't be, because I've learned so much in these last 4 years about different ways to do things. And so I have shifted my focus away from being just a macro coach. That's going to work for some people, but it's not going to work for everybody. Some people need to be on meal plans, or they thrive better with that. I have a lot of people who are like, just tell me what to eat and I'll follow it and I have no problem doing that. And that's great, because that works for some people. I have some people who we just focus on, those low-hanging fruits, getting water in, getting protein in, making sure that they're moving daily. Those things can really change someone's change their whole body composition, change how they feel. It changes everything for them by just tackling those little things. So it's not going to look the same for everybody. I've also taken more of like an emphasis into more of like the functional health side of things, which again is not an area that some people need to focus on, but it can be helpful for other people who are going through, different health problems, nutritional problems, all of those things. So
what do you mean by functional health for those that may not know what that term means?
Yeah, so just it's more of like a holistic view. It's more of, has a lot to do with, I guess, things along with the medical field. So I'm by no means a doctor. I'm not ever pretending to be like one, but I do think that there's a lot of things that we can control ourselves through food and nutrition before just turning to prescription medication or having to go to the doctor for certain things. There's all kinds of weight loss drugs and all of that, has become popular over the last couple of years. And I just think that there's a lot of other things that we should be tackling from a more functional health space than, we have. I think there's a lot more education that has come out over the last few years on things like that.
Yeah, for sure. Troy, have you ever followed a diet, like a diet for a long period of time?
That's what I was just about to say. I know we're talking about different approaches and everything, but counting macros was huge for me when I first started just working out and getting into shape, just finding the balance. But then also, just like you said, you don't know what you don't know. And I had just started eating healthier and losing a bunch of weight and thought it was great. Then I got, to a point where I got stuck, and come to find out, like I feel like a majority of people who are in the CrossFit world, I wasn't eating enough, whether it was protein or carbs for the type of workouts I was doing. So for that to show me like, hey, not only can you afford to eat more, but you need to eat more in order to achieve the goals that you want to reach and everything. And then balance, like you said, Nick, kind of like being able to balance a checkbook, knowing that, hey, if I don't go crazy at breakfast and, we go out and especially on vacation, go get pancakes and this and that or whatever, I can afford to then have whatever at nighttime, whether it be dessert or a drink or this or that. Being able to find that balance of what I can afford versus what I can't afford based off of those macros helped, but I didn't have to do it forever, because once I had that idea of, okay, I can afford to do this, I can afford to do that based off of what I've eaten throughout the day, I didn't really have to look at my macros anymore. I kind of knew exactly, okay, this is roughly around the amount I need to eat. Probably shouldn't have this tonight since I had that last night, things like that. So counting macros was huge for me. I tried that RP diet for a very short amount of time, but it kicked my butt.
Dude, I did that for 24 hours once. I lasted 24 hours. I can't do it.
I think I lasted 2 days, and I was real young. I think I was like 18, 19, and I was borderline in tears whenever I couldn't do it, man. It was hard. It's strict, very, very strict.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I love that you said that about like how you started off with tracking macros, because I do think that it has a lot of purpose. It teaches people what's truly in food. If you are having to track all of your macros, then you are paying attention to your carbs, fats, proteins. Everybody wants to be able to intuitively eat, and I always think that that should be the goal. But you have to learn how to intuitively eat. You have to know what's in the foods that you're eating. I always say that you have to kind of earn the right to intuitively eat, because if you're just an average person on the street that knows nothing about nutrition, your intuitive eating, your body may be telling you that it wants ice cream or that it wants pizza. And you can't listen to those things truly when you don't really know what your body is actually telling you it needs.
Oh yeah. No different than the peanut butter. Like you said, like tracking that on whether it might be MyFitnessPal or Macros Plus, whatever the apps are, like knowing that, hey, peanut butter has a lot more fat than it does protein in it. Or wow, I never knew that this snack I always enjoyed had this much sugar or carbs in it. Being able to know like foods like that, and like you said, earn the right to do that is a big deal.
And who knew that the serving size of peanut butter was so small?
I know.
Nobody uses that little peanut butter.
Using half the jar for a sandwich.
Yeah. I mean, I get asked questions at least probably every week by members about like diet questions, and I'm always the first to kind of tell them I'm not. That's not like I wouldn't say that's my field of expertise. I don't think I necessarily have any field that's necessarily an area that I'm an expert in, but there's just so many options that are out there. When you part of your client intake, you have them do the 5-day tracking of their food. Is there any other stuff that you're having them track besides just the food that they're eating, or is that step one?
Step one would be the food. So I send everybody, I have a consultation form that kind of goes over, I like to set up a phone call first of all, before anything, because I'll have people reach out and I'm like, let's get on the phone to make sure that we are both aligned, that I understand kind of what your background looks like, you understand what my background looks like. And I've had calls with people who I'm like, we're not a good match for each other. This is just not going to work out. And that was kind of like a hard thing to get used to, because I don't want to have to tell anybody no, but sometimes, I don't want to be wasting anybody's time either. If I'm not, the way that I coach is not going to align with their values or what they want, or, things like that. But so we have the phone call, and then I have a consultation form that just kind of goes over all of their history, kind of where they're currently at, medications, supplements, anything that they have going on, what their daily activity looks like. And then the biggest part of that, the most time-consuming part, would be to have them, track that. So I always say anything that goes in your mouth, food, water, you write that down and let me know where we're at. And then I take all of that information into consideration, because, this can happen when you have somebody who's eating way too much or eating way too little. If I was to just take what I think that they should be eating, that could be drastically under or drastically over where their body is currently at, and the amount of intake that they're currently at. So if I think that you should be eating 2,000 calories a day, but you're eating 4,000 or 5,000, there's a lot of space in between those two numbers that we could make progress. It's not about just dropping you down to the 2,000 calories where I think you should be right out of the gate, because we miss all of that progress that could be made by just lowering your intake, slowly. And so same, works the exact same way the other way. If you're drastically under eating and I jump your body up to where I think you should be at, then your body's going to freak out. You are maybe going to retain all of that food immediately and put on a lot of water weight, and the scale's going to go up. And then that's when people start to freak out. And so it's always a very, slow and steady process with what that looks like. And it's, like I said earlier, it's different for every single person. There's not one cookie cutter approach to doing it. And so that's where I think that the one-on-one coaching really works better for me. It can work in a group setting, but everybody's situation is going to be different.
Yeah, no, Savannah's really big on the water and the sleep and the steps and stuff like that.
Hit all that low-hanging fruit. Take advantage of all that stuff that is relatively easy. It's not easy, I guess, but it's simple things that you can change.
Yeah. My other big one that I've been learning a lot about, it's definitely a harder one for sure, is how much sugar's in everything.
Yeah.
And there's like 50 different words that they use for sugars on labels. So it's not even like you can just read a label anymore and it's like, oh, sugar, there it is. It's in the food. I mean, it's just now labeled in so many different ways that it's so addictive. When I had to remove it, I told Lily, I was like, why is it so hard for me to eliminate sugar? And then I started thinking about, man, I don't like that something has that much of a hold on me that I don't have control. And it's like I had lost control of my ability to be able to decide when I wanted to have it and not have it. It was like being addicted to alcohol or drugs. Like, I mean, I would assume like it has to be the same as someone who's addicted to alcohol and drugs. It's like they lose that control over being able to say, no, I don't want it. And then your mind almost plays these tricks on you. Like it's telling you why it's okay to have it. And like, you're having this internal battle inside. So I was really trying to pay attention to how my body was handling that transition. And it took about 2 weeks where like for my body to finally stop having to like have those sugar cravings. And then after that, I was golden. Like I didn't crave it anymore. I don't like the sweets, all that stuff was gone. And that was an incredible feeling to feel for the first time. Like, man, I didn't realize something had such a hold on me. So I mean, Lily did the same thing. And so we have sugar so rare now. And when we do, a little bit just goes such a long ways. But it's tough because it's in everything that we have. If you don't know really what you're looking for, it's hidden in your food so much. Like your body just gets to the point where you have to have more and more and more of it. That's crazy. I've been trying to have more conversations with people about sugar. That one it's not going as well though. I have a hard time even like with my family, not giving all that stuff to Flex, where we just put our foot down and we're like, no, like Flex doesn't need that. He doesn't even know. He doesn't even know he's missing it. And they're like, oh, it's like we're torturing him. And I'm like, what is wrong with this picture right now? I'm setting him up for failure by just making him addicted to sugar. And he's not even asking for it.
Yeah.
It's wild. What were you going to say, Nick?
Oh, we had a relative here this week for Thanksgiving, and they brought some food with them. They brought a pack of Sunny D. And Casey looked at the back, and the number one ingredient was high fructose corn syrup. I've gotten to the point. So, like for me, I eat generally okay. You know what I mean? I like a donut from time to time or something like that. But I'm like you. I'm really aware of the stuff that I buy for the girls. You know what I mean? That's why I make their lunches. I don't buy prepackaged lunches. I'm not sending them to school with lunch meat. You know what I mean? I'm like today I was grilling them chicken breast and like they're taking normal food and they're like, oh, the kids, I think it was Kennedy said that one of the kids was laughing at her or said her lunch was weird. I was like, what is that friend eating? Probably like freaking corn dogs and
Okay.
goldfish crackers. You know what I mean? Not that like our girls have that sometimes, but it's a rare occasion. We're not sending them to school with goldfish and stuff. You know, but yeah, people do look at you weird when you start to be conscious of the food that you're eating, or especially for your kids, because family, I think, is coming from a good place. They want to spoil your kids with like
for sure.
with like candy or whatever that is. But I know for our girls, when we go out of town, when we go home to visit family, they're like different people. And it's a lot of it, some of it's the sleep, but a lot of it is just the food. It's crazy.
Well, I feel like the food affects the sleep as well. So
Yeah,
it's a
that's a good point.
yeah, both of those.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
My mom the other day, we brought Flex home from Friendsgiving, and he had some bites of pie up there and a few other things that, I mean, most of the stuff up there is sugar. There's Eileen's cookies, whatever. And we were like, yeah, he can have some stuff. That kid got home and he was a different kid. He had just morphed. Like he was in the bathtub and he was just like, stuff that he's never like that. And Lily finally called me in. She's like, Savannah, you have to come see this. She's like, because I don't even know what to do. Do I just keep letting him go? What's the point? So we're telling my mom that story. And mom says, see, Savannah, that's why you have to give him some more sugar. I'm like, Mom, you sound like a drug dealer. Like, here, want some more drugs so that a little bit doesn't throw him off the edge anymore. Like, we don't want to get him drunk off the first drink. We want to make sure he gets 3 or 4 beers in before he starts getting drunk. Like, what does that even sound like? And she's laughing, but I'm like, that's the thing. Like, yeah, it's crazy.
Well, you're doing a really good thing, because I feel like that if we have more people like you, like both of you guys, like making that choice now for your kids, that's just going to become normal for them, and they're going to grow up in that environment, and it's not going to be weird for them, and they kind of will hopefully maybe get to miss out on this whole, you know, like I said earlier, the diet culture thing that we've all had that ingrained in our minds. So kudos to both of you for starting that.
It's weird though with little girls specifically, because I know my wife and I we don't want to give them like a complex about something, or make them hyper body conscious or something like that, you know, which seems to be happening like more often, like younger and younger, you know. But it's for me with my girls, I'm really aware of their protein and their fat. Like carbs for the most part, I'm not going to worry about trying to like counting that stuff, but I want to make sure they're getting protein and fat for their brain, you know? Yeah, I don't know. Would you have any advice on how to approach that with young girls? You know what I mean?
I think a lot of it has to do with kind of, not necessarily for kids, but it has to do with how you verbalize things. Like I have a lot of clients who do have kids, a lot of females and people who do track their food. They see their kids see them weighing out their food and have questions about that, because that's weird. That's not something that, everybody does. And so I've had some people come to me and they're like, my kid is, asking me questions about this. I don't know how to answer this. And I try to always say to spin it as whether this is what's actually going on or not, but it's like, mom is trying to make sure that I'm eating enough. Like always make sure, never, talk about dieting. Don't have that be a part of the picture, but make sure that you are eating enough. So then they grow up thinking that, they do need to fuel their bodies. They need to, not be focused on trying to lose weight all the time. So I think a lot of it has to do with how you, like the words that you speak around it. And then just to not make it a big deal, not freak out about it if you can't track your food sometimes, or if you have to make a different decision than maybe like a more unhealthy decision than what you would like to make if you're going out to dinner or anything. They can feed off of that stress, and they know whenever you're stressed out about food. So don't let them see that. Don't let that be a part of their life, because these are choices that you're making for your own body, and it shouldn't be something that they have to now like hyper fixate on or think that they have to do as well. But yeah, the body image thing it's tough. It's tough, especially with girls. And I think it just gets harder and harder and harder as, more education, not even education, but more social media, TikTok. There's so many different things out there that people are getting this information from, and it just makes it really hard. So I think it's all in just being open and honest and educating your kids on why you're making the decisions that you're making for them.
Yeah. So we've talked about food a lot. I'm curious, what is your athletic background? What got you into the bodybuilding side of things? And what experience, if any, do you have with CrossFit style of training? And have you used it in the past? Do you still dabble in it, or like what's that look like for you?
Yeah. So I started off like a lot of females do. I just wanted to be a cardio bunny and be as small as possible. So I was never really involved in sports in high school or anything like that. That's just nothing I ever really took interest in. So I didn't get involved in any of like working out or anything really till college. And so I hit that phase where I just wanted to do cardio. I would go to the gym every single day, get on the elliptical for 60 minutes and call it good. And I just cared about being, as small as possible. And then I am 6 foot tall, so I'm a very tall girl. And I've also had I have a very lanky body. I've just naturally been, thinner my whole life. And I kind of got to that point where I just felt like I was spinning my wheels, and I'm like, I can't keep doing what I'm doing because I'm not really seeing any progress from this point. And so this is kind of around the time too, whenever social media became, Instagram became more of a bigger deal. I was following people on there, seeing people doing, bodybuilding competitions. And for me, I have never been somebody that wants to be center of attention. Like I said, I've never played sports. I never did like dance recitals or anything where I was like on stage by myself. And so for me, it was kind of like a challenge. Like I was like, if I don't ever try this, then I'm always going to wonder what it would have been like to try it. And so I did my first competition and I was like, I'm either going to love this or hate this. And if I hate it, then I will never do it again. But at least I don't have to live with the, that lingering question over me of what if I had never tried it? And I did it, and I did horrible, and I was way too small to be up on that stage, but I had the absolute best time. And it was really just about like reaching that goal for me and proving to myself that I could do it. And I was capable of doing it. And so I continued doing those from there. CrossFit, I have a little bit of a background myself. That's actually where I met my husband, in a CrossFit class. But I would just go like one day a week. That was right after I was working at Lululemon. And so I was, trying different styles of workouts, and I really enjoyed it. I've never been the strongest person in the room. So it was kind of like one of those things where I'd go in and like hang out in the corner and just do my lifts with the barbell and try not to like have anybody looking at me, because I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm not lifting as heavy weights as all these people in there, because you CrossFit athletes are insane. But I enjoyed it, and so I did that for a while. And then my heart's always just been with bodybuilding. So that is where I feel like that style of training, I love being in the gym. I love trying to lift as heavy as I can. I am personally more of a solo workouter. I don't even really like to go to the gym with my husband. I like to just do my own thing. Like that is my me time to kind of zone out and do things at my own pace. And so I didn't really love the class aspect of things. I don't have like personal experience with coaching clients from like the CrossFit, like the fitness side of things. I do have some clients who I do their nutrition that are CrossFit athletes, but I don't have the experience of, writing workouts for that style of workout.
Yeah, I think like there's probably several. I bet a large percentage of our gym members have dabbled in like the bodybuilding stuff. I think myself included. The Muscle and Fitness magazines, getting them, seeing what 8 or 12 week programs going to get me huge in like 2 months. Buying supplements when I was in high school that I just thought there's a bodybuilder on the front of it, so it must work. But I never felt inclined to actually. I mean, getting on stage in front of people is a very vulnerable position to be in. You know what I mean? What was that first show?
Oh, it's terrifying. I feel like I don't even remember the first show. And I feel like I say that every time. I'm like, I get up there and it's like, I almost just like black out. And I'm like, where am I? Like, what is going on? But it's like this high that you get of just being up there and just, absolutely terrifying, but it feels so cool too, because it's not something that a lot of people would do, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. You know, it took a lot for me to get up there, but it is just like that personal gratification of reaching that goal. And it's the same for any sport. You know, it's the same for CrossFitters who are competing for their, you know, their first time or anything like that. You know, it's just on a different scale.
Much different scale. I mean, you're walking up on stage to be judged.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like a CrossFit athlete, I mean, not to downplay the stuff that you know that some of us do. It's a different situation. There's other athletes that are doing stuff at the same time. You might be being watched by the people that are closest to you, but you're not up on stage in front of hundreds of strangers. You know, with stuff that's generally covering your private areas, and other than that, you're out there for everybody. You know.
Yeah, it's a very vulnerable position. You have to have thick skin, and you have to understand that you are putting yourself in a situation to be judged, and that you can't live and die by what those judges say to you. Like, yes, you want to continually get better, and you have to listen to that feedback as well. But like, what I always tell people, I've coached a couple of competitors. It's not like an area that I necessarily want to go down with coaching. It's just I find more. I felt like I'm more experienced, and I get more gratification out of helping just normal, regular lifestyle people who are, don't have those competition goals. But I have coached a couple of them, and it's just you have to be very aware of what you're getting into before you get into it, and you can't let your placing ruin you, because that's not your whole life. That is a part of your life, and it is something that should bring you joy. Any type of exercise should bring you joy. You shouldn't be doing something just because you feel like you have to. There's 50 million different types of exercise out there. And I tell everybody there's got to be something out there that you find that you enjoy. You just need to try different things until you find that.
What's the community like with, so you were doing the, is it technically, is there bodybuilding? There's like physique, there's like fitness, what are the different categories?
Yeah. So it's all technically like bodybuilding is like umbrella, but I always feel weird too, to tell people I'm like, I'm a bodybuilder. And they're like, no, you're a little girl. Like you're not, you're not a bodybuilder. So I do bikini, which would be like for females is the lowest amount of muscle. Like that would be like the entry level, I guess. It's not entry level, but for the amount of muscle that you have. And then there's figure, there's women's physique, there's fitness, where they do like different fitness routines. Those are really cool to watch. It's like actually like you have to be truly in shape, but then also be able to do backflips and somersaults and do all of this stuff on stage. So it's cool to watch those. And then there's women's bodybuilding as well. And then also have different categories under the same kind of thing. I think there's like 5 or 6 different categories for men, but it's all under the umbrella term of bodybuilding.
Have you ever thought about going outside of the bikini category into something else?
Oh, I would love to, but I wouldn't be able to put on that much muscle ever.
How much muscle would you have to put on, do you think, for it to be, so there's not I guess, could anybody join any of these categories?
Yeah, absolutely.
There's nothing that's holding you back from going to a different category other than yourself.
Yes, yeah. If you are somebody, like, I feel like some people just know what they like. Bikini may appeal to them more than figure. Maybe they don't want to put on that much muscle, and they want to have some, but they don't want to go up to that level. Some people genetics is not the only thing. Absolutely, you can outwork those genetics to the best of your capability. But like for me, I would never be able to be a figure athlete. Like that's just not in the cards for me. My body type is just not like that. I put on muscle at a very slow rate. And so that just wouldn't work. But I think, that's the purpose of having these different divisions, is that there is a division that everybody could fit into. All 3 of you could go jump into bodybuilding tomorrow and work towards getting on stage in one of those categories.
Croy and Savannah, have either of you guys been to a bodybuilding show before? Like in person?
Yeah, I've been to one before.
Which
It was downtown it was actually funny enough. It was going on during the CrossFit competition.
That's what I was gonna
oh,
say.
yeah.
Yeah, it was in the corner. The CrossFit competition was over here, and then they had a full-fledged bodybuilding competition going on over here.
Huh.
It was awesome. It was incredible. And I have a lot of friends in different states who do bodybuilding, quote unquote, who are kind of in that world, in that realm, and I think it's awesome. I've always loved it. Whether it's the YouTubers that follow along with the different workouts and stuff that they do, I think that whole world is awesome.
Savannah, have you ever been to one?
Yeah, I was same thing as Croy. CrossFit competition, and it was going on at the same time. That was we all walked in there and we watched for a while. It was cool.
Yeah. It's cool. They even have like masters divisions. I mean, there's people up there 70 years old, living out their best life, and they look better than some of the younger people. They got more muscle maturity. So there's no age limit on it.
Yeah, it's interesting because like the bodybuilding stuff, when I think back, I've probably misspoken in the past when I say that I wasted my time early on training, doing having back and bi days and chest and tries, stuff like that. But in all seriousness, if I look back on that, that gave me a really good foundation to be to be the type of athlete that I am right now in CrossFit. But CrossFit is almost, even though the training intensity is definitely a different feeling and a different stimulus altogether. The cool thing about CrossFit versus the bodybuilding is I think you can see your results a little bit faster because you're on times and reps and stuff like that, where and body composition and bodybuilding, it's definitely a long game. You know what I mean? I think people that are in the bodybuilding world, they may even have you might need more motivation and more dedication to pursue that, because it's going to take such a long time potentially to see the results that you want to see.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it definitely takes time. I did my first show in 2017, I believe. And I'm nowhere near to where I want to be. I would almost not take back. I mean, I don't ever want to say that I regret doing anything, because it's gotten me to where I am now. But like I said earlier, I was nowhere near ready to probably do any of the shows that I have, and so that's my now goal, is to not get back up on stage until I can be truly competitive, because I'm kind of past that point where it's a bucket list thing and I'm just checking it off, because a lot of people do that and there's nothing wrong with that. That's fantastic. But I'm to that point where I want to be competitive. I want to do really, really well. And so I won't get back up there until I feel like I'm ready.
Have you ever done a triathlon with your husband?
No, I have never. And I honestly have no interest in that. I don't like to do that. I don't like to do cardio at all. Cardio and prep is about the most cardio I ever want to do. And that's a lot. And so I can't even fathom. I see those athletes and I'm like, how do you do this? How do you do 3 disciplines all stacked together? That's beyond what I don't think I could do that.
Has he done a full Ironman, or is he?
Yeah. He's just done half. So he's always done the Ironmans, but he
just half. That's still long.
Yeah. I think that he'll eventually. I always tell him, I'm like, you're going to get the bug and want to do it one day. But he always says, as soon as he crosses that finish line, he's like, there's no way I could do this, double the time of what I just did. So we'll see.
That'd be an interesting little bonding experience for you both. You do a triathlon with him, and then he's got to get on stage at a contest the next time you get on stage. That'd be fun. I've
actually told him that. I'm like, the day that you agree to get up on stage with me, maybe I'll start training with you. So I don't think it's never going to happen though.
Yeah. So we're getting close. We generally like to keep these under an hour. I guess. Are we going to see you? Are we going to see you at the gym more often? What does that look like potentially for you at the gym, or is that something we should or should not get into on this Savannah? I don't know. I'm just asking a question.
No, yeah, I love that. Yeah, I mean, I'm excited, definitely excited to come up there, and I've never checked out the gym. I definitely want to. I'll be there on Saturday for the book club, and I can't wait to meet everybody and see all that. So I would love to be more involved there. I can't promise that I'm going to be a very good CrossFitter, but I'll get in there maybe a couple times and try some workouts with you guys.
Oh yeah, hop in for a couple.
Yeah, I've been teasing Emily that she needs to come up there and do some workouts with us. And obviously she's going to be helping me lead the book club Good Energy, but we're also wanting to utilize her as to work with our members and stuff for nutrition. So we'll be continuing to integrate her in and put her in positions to where she can get to know our members better. And maybe we'll do like a little Q&A, have the members like shoot us out some questions that they want answered about nutrition and stuff like that, and do one of those one time or something. So
that'd be fun. I'm open to any and all ideas with this. I think it's just a cool opportunity to be able to meet new people, help more people. And, you know, I love this. I love to talk about this. And, you know, there's other than coaching, you know, my family is very supportive of it. And obviously my husband is involved with all this, but like, this is not my entire life. You know, I have other friends out there who don't like to talk about these things. And so it's fun to find groups of people who really want to talk about these things and really want to learn more. So I'm always open to that.
Any last minute tips for people with the holidays and eating and or just being in the gym and working out?
Yeah, I always just don't let food be a focus of this time of year. And that's not to mean don't enjoy all the food that's out there, but don't let it be a stressor for you. You know, when you look at it, the days that you are eating maybe off plan or eating more than you would expect to, they're very few compared to the whole year. So you have to look at it like that. Like, it's not going to totally derail your progress. Enjoy the few meals that you have out. The biggest thing that I can't stress to people, do not save your calories for the day. If you know you're going to eat a big meal at night, don't starve yourself up into that meal, because you're going to go into that meal eating so many more calories than you would have had you just had a normal day up until that point, because the whole theory of trying to save calories really usually backfires for most people. So enjoy the foods. Don't eat everything. You know, don't eat 5 slices of pie. Maybe eat 5 bites of all the different pies. You know, don't feel obligated to eat what your grandma made for you just because she's your grandma. You know, if you don't want to eat something, no is a full sentence, and just tell people you don't want to. You know, stay hydrated. If you're enjoying drinking, alternate that with water. And just enjoy time. You know, this is not about food. It's about spending time with your loved ones and enjoying the holidays. And you should not let that be derailed because of your stress over food.
It's good advice. I've been doing it wrong my whole life. I starved myself the day.
Calorie saver, I knew it. You can tell. Yeah.
Well, cool. Does anybody else have anything to add? No?
Nope.
I don't think so. That was awesome.
Well, cool. Emily, thanks for joining us on here. Looking forward to having you in the gym some more, and maybe you'll get the CrossFit bug.
You never know what could happen.
Classes.
Yeah. Thank you guys for having me on here. I appreciate it.
Yeah. All right.